So there's a lot of Melisandre in John's chapters. Okay. So from John, we hear that Melisandre wants to burn first Mance and then his son, so that both can die as kings, and she can, I don't know, use the king's blood for something to raise dragons. Um, she also gives John the daggers and the dark warning and tells him to go keep Ghost close. Um, Melisandre burns what she thinks is the horn of Joramun and Mance in a huge fire pit beyond the wall. Stannis then allows the captive wildlings to pass through the wall, and Melisandre makes each wildling burn a piece of weirwood in the fire pit. Melisandre tells Jon that she has bound Rattleshire to herself, and he will now serve Jon faithfully, even though Jon doesn't believe her. She also tells Jon that she'll stay at the wall when Stannis leaves to fight the Boltons. After Jon hears that Ramsay is going to marry Arya, Melisandre tells him she's seen Arya escaping to the wall. She then suggests that she and Jon make shadow babies together because she thinks that since her power is so strong at the wall, any baby she makes with Jon's will be really, really strong. Jon resists, however, and she tells him that the rangers he sent beyond the wall are going to die. In the Melisandre POV, uh, we see her spending the night staring into the fires, hoping to see Stannis. She sees a series of visions, eyeless faces, towers by the sea crumbling under dark tides, shadows in the shape of skulls, bodies locked in lust, and great winged shadows. She tries to find the Grey Girl again, but she can't. She sees Bloodraven and Bran in the fire, and she thinks they're servants of the Great Other. She also remembers being sold as a child. Um, she sees whites near a grey cliff, which I'm assuming is a hard home. She sees Jon as a man, then a wolf, then a man again, and sees skulls surrounding him. Um, she we also get a lot of Melisandre's thoughts on how she uses glamours and powders and everything to make everything seem more glamorous. After Devon comes to her room and tells her that dawn is approaching, she sends him for food, but she says that she doesn't really need sleep or food, and then tells him to bring Rattleshire to her. Um, as she changes, this is where we get how she stores powders on herself so that she can make fires. When Rattleshirt arrives, she tells him about the Grey Girl and she tells him that she's going to convince Jon to send him to rescue her. Even as they're talking, they hear a war horn give out one blast, and Melisandre knows that these are the dead rangers. And she joins Jon beyond the wall, and she sees that the Reaper has left the heads of the three rangers Jon sent out, with their eyes gouged out. Um, when she and Jon return to Castle Black, she tells Jon about the towers she saw being submerged, and she tells him that the towers are those at Eastwatch, even though she knows that they're not. But she fools herself into believing that they could be the same towers. Um, Melisandre also notices many similarities between Jon and Stannis. She brings Jon back to the chambers, tells him that Rattleshirt is actually Mance under a glamour. Um, Jon agrees to send him with 6 spear wives to rescue Arya. After the Grey Girl is found to be Alice Karstark instead of Arya, Melisandre is the one who marries her to Sigorn, Magnar of Fen. After the ceremony, Jon asks her uh, about Stannis' fate, and she admits that she hasn't really seen him, and that when asks to see Azor Ahai, she sees only snow, which still doesn't tell her anything. Um, but she's certain Stannis isn't dead. Again, she warns Jon about the daggers in the dark. And after Jon announces that he's going to lead ranging to Hardhome, she tries to convince him that it's folly. And she prophesies that no one's going to return alive from Hardhome. And again, she tells him to keep Jon close. Um, okay, so some interesting things that I came across. Okay, so Melisandre knew it wasn't Mance, but she still burned Rattleshirt. And I don't get why she did that. Was it just to save face? And Val seems convinced that Melisandre knows that the babies have been switched, and she still doesn't do anything. Why is that? I mean, she had two people of King's blood that she believed to be King's blood, and she didn't burn them. Why is that? She convinced Stannis to burn them, but she didn't really pursue it herself. Why? And we get this line from her. Her bed had seen little use since Stannis left the wall, which makes it pretty clear that she and Stannis were having sex, probably making shadow babies all along.
I think it's kind of, she describes it as the trappings of power, and I think it's all about, it's not so much power is this abstract idea, and it's more about like the ritual and the performance, like that big ceremony where she burns Mance and leads all the wildlings through, and they each throw in a piece of weirwood into the fire, and Stannis draws his flaming sword, and it's like this whole ritual, and that's what actually builds up real power. But the idea of King's blood, maybe that's just a falsehood. Maybe that's there is no power. It's more about like the ceremony that actually bestows power. But
she promised Stannis a stone dragon. I mean, she promised him that she would raise a stone dragon once she had King's blood, and she had it, and she didn't use it. So what was the point of promising all that?
I guess the question there is that a hoax? Is that not really what is she even capable of doing that? I was under the impression she rescued Mance because she saw potential value in him beyond just burning him, because she did mention a couple times that she found him fascinating or useful or interesting in some way. But you also mentioned that she was aware of the baby switching and didn't pursue it, and I don't know. That makes me wonder if there's even anything to the Stone Dragon thing, or if that's just something she's using to reinforce Stannis' belief that they have some kind of ace in the hole.
Yeah, she seems to have a game with Mance going on, but it's not quite clear what it is other than to gain Jon Snow's trust. It's
interesting when George decided to introduce Melisandre's chapter as something we would get an insight into, because normally he doesn't give us insights into these characters that have a lot of information, privileged information that we wouldn't normally be party to. And I think that in doing so, we get a lot of we almost get more questions than we get answers, because it throws a lot of the presumptions we had before out the window, because we are aware that Melisandre is not a complete charlatan. She is not as powerful as she claims to be, and there are things that she's not capable of, and she's in fact herself perhaps not even what she appears to be.
And she seems to think that she's better at deciphering prophecies than everyone else, but she's clearly making mistakes, especially at Eastwatch, because she's been at Eastwatch. She knows what the towers look like, and she knows that the towers she's seen in the fires are not the same ones, but she still convinces herself that they could be the same ones. And also Azor Ahai, she keeps asking to see Azor Ahai, and the fires keep showing her Jon, and she refuses to understand. She clearly believes that Stannis is Azor Ahai. She's clearly convinced herself.
So, with the fact in mind that we know that many of her other prophecies or things she's seen in the fire have come to fruition in some way, can we then assume that, or at least use that as evidence to say that Jon is in fact the most likely candidate as of right now as Azor Ahai?
Yeah, and the thing is, most people seem to think that Azor Ahai and the prince that was promised are the same people, even though the prince that was promised seems to be Daenerys, as Master Aemon pointed out. And this chapter clearly points to Jon being Azor Ahai. So are they different, or are they the same? Or is it just a case of the dragon having 3 heads?
Daenerys seems to fulfill the prophecy like the whole way. Like, she's actually woken dragons out of stone. Like, no one else has done that. You can kind of vaguely interpret Jon as being Azor Ahai or even Victarion, but Daenerys is the only one that's fulfilled every, criterion of the prophecy.
But the thing is, they could be different, right? Azor Ahai and the prince that was promised could be 2 different people.
I'm
because
sure
Jon again has the dream. Because Jon has the dream of the flaming sword in his hand. So, and he's had prophetic dreams before, so this could be another one of those.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, as of right now, I don't think we can really rule either way, even if it is 2 different people. I don't think we can even say that for sure, because a lot of the people that we have information from are not all-knowing or omniscient in any way, because of course we see in this chapter that Melisandre is wrong, or at least wants to believe that Stannis is Azor Ahai, and it's obviously at this point probably highly unlikely. And also, if in fact they are two different people, Master Aemon is also wrong, because he thinks they're the same person. He firmly believed it was Daenerys. So again, I think that when we try to figure this one out, it's hard, because the people that we're basing our information on are not solid sources.
There is a post on Westeros which mentions that George R.R. Martin has confirmed that the prince that was promised is Azor Ahai, and it links to a video.
Really?
That's right.
Well, I think... So I guess the next question would be, not to go down this rabbit hole too much, but does the dragon have 3 heads? Was Rhaegar right in that idea? And is that going to be how this whole thing plays out? Is there more than one person who's going to fulfill this whole mess? Or are we just again theorizing about things that aren't really going to matter too much, because we're overthinking the prophecy that is in fact...
And these prophecies have been passed down for thousands of years, right? So they must have been distorted somewhere along the way.
I think it's going to be interesting. I think that definitely Azor Ahai, there has to be something to that, because we've just had too much for it to be completely meaningless. And of course that plays into the whole idea of the Song of Ice and Fire and how that will play out. But yeah, I think there's something to that. It's just hard to say for certain right now what it's going to be. I think that if Jon does end up coming back from the dead in some way, then there's definitely something that's a point at his court. So I guess with that we can go on to Jon and talk about... Unless anyone else.
I just want to say, Patchface. Melisandre seems very uneasy about him.
With good reason. I find Patchface to be one of the most disturbing characters in the whole series. He's one of the few that actually manages to creep me out incredibly. I don't know why, but yeah, I think there's something to the idea that Patchface has his own kind of prophetic powers, because he definitely does drop those hints to things that come to be, like the Red Wedding and all that. But yeah, I find it totally disturbing, and I can't blame Melisandre for feeling the same.
I just wanted to
He's
mention...
also very creepy. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I was just going to say, he seems to be connected to the drowned god, because he was underwater for so long, and that's obviously mentally affected him. And it seems like people who suffer like near-death experiences have that connection to the spirit world and prophecy, like Bran. So he might be that sort of similar scenario with Patchface.
And also we do get Melisandre, or it wasn't Melisandre, it was I think she shows up somewhere here, but Val remarking on Shireen's grayscale and how that could be a problem. I think that's just something worth mentioning, how that's going to come to be, and how that will play out. I don't know if there's a chance that the whole wall will get plagued. I think the wall is one of the most contentious areas right now, and so many different things could happen that it's hard to say.
When Melisandre reveals to Jon that that Rattleshirt is actually Mance, she mentions that it's a person's possessions that are used to build up a glamour, right? As in, Rattleshirt's bones made Mance's glamour stronger. And she mentions a list of things, and in that list, there is a bag of finger bones. And the only person we know who has a bag of finger bones is Davos. So,
well, he doesn't have them anymore.
Glamour? Well,
he dropped them in Blackwater.
But why would Melisandre mention this totally random thing related to a glamour?
True.
Who's using that bag of finger bones to impersonate Davos?
Do you guys think that Melisandre truly believes in Stannis anymore?
I think she does. I think she's fooled herself into believing it so much that she can't give it up. But
Aemon has that mind. She must know. But I guess maybe he's discounting her self-delusion. I don't know.
The way I read it was that she is kind of committed to it at this point, and while she has her doubts, she can't really back down.
She's all in. Okay.
Yeah.